After being married to my archenemy for many years, I suddenly traveled back in time to my high school days. Just as I walked out of the bedroom, I bumped into him at the age of 18. I rubbed my eyes. My husband in his pajamas looked sleepy and extremely tired. Stay and sleep with me for a while longer. However, my archenemy stared coldly at the hickey on my neck. His tone was sarcastic, and he even called me by the wrong name again. Your boyfriend isn't very skilled this time. He nibbled like a dog. What? This was clearly your doing last night.
Welcome to listen to my full sweet love series novel. I'm the blogger and I'm Twilight's novel. Now let's start the main story.
Just as my thoughts started, the bell rang. I opened my eyes. My whole body ached. I finally remembered. Yesterday was my wedding anniversary with Jack. He got drunk, hugged me, and laughed and cried. He kept mumbling about loving his wife and such. Ugh, it was so cheesy. He used to oppose his wife everywhere. Otherwise, he would have married his wife long ago. Jack becomes talkative when he drinks too much. I didn't catch much of what he said. I only knew that he held me tightly all the time, and talked on and on. In the end, Jack got more and more excited. He carried me into the bathroom. We fooled around all night. I pulled back my thoughts. I casually called out, "Husband." I was thirsty, but Jack didn't respond to me. I reached out and touched the side. It was already empty. But I noticed something was wrong. The chandelier on the ceiling that I had personally chosen was gone. The layout of the entire room was also very unfamiliar. I was stunned. At this time, the sound of a key opening the door suddenly came from outside. Someone was back. Judging by the footsteps, I knew it was Jack. He seemed to be on the phone with someone. Teacher Sophia isn't at home. Yeah, he's been absent from school a bit lately. Don't worry. I'm the monitor. I'll definitely take care of this. What teacher? Monitor? It's early in the morning. Why are we still playing role play? I rubbed my eyes and opened the door. Jack stood tall and straight, wearing a dark blue school uniform. His hairstyle was a clean-cut one. He had his back to me and was about to put down his school bag. As expected of the school hunk for 3 consecutive years back then, he really lived up to his reputation. I thought to myself and casually responded. Unfortunately, I ate too much last night. I wasn't in a good mood at the moment. I leaned against the doorframe and acted coquettishly towards Jack. My voice, just waking up, was still a bit soft and waxy. Honey, I'm so sleepy. I don't want to play this in the morning. Sleep with me for a while longer. I saw Jack's whole body stiffen. Then he turned around. His eyes gradually widened, filled with shock. Sophia, why did you come out of my bedroom? What did you just call me? Jack sneered, and his words came out like a machine gun. Sophia, I warn you not to shout randomly. We're not familiar. Don't think that I'm like your group of boyfriends. Just because you crook your finger, I'll do your bidding. He suddenly stopped talking, because his gaze traveled up along my suspender nightgown. He saw the long-lasting hickey on my neck. He had an epiphany look. A sarcastic smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Oh, you called the wrong person again. Your boyfriend isn't very skilled this time. He nibbled like a dog. I'm not your brother. What are you talking about? Who kissed and nibbled me last night? I was about to refute Jack. But then I suddenly saw the calendar on the wall. I widened my eyes in surprise. The time on the calendar was actually 7 years ago. That year Jack and I were 18 years old. It was also the worst period of our relationship. Did I travel through time? During high school, Jack and I were always bitter enemies. Although our fathers had a good relationship, it didn't stop us from disliking each other. After my parents divorced, our house was sold. My father went out to work. He always left me alone at home. Jack's mother was kind-hearted. Every time she cooked at home, she would invite me to eat together. Even when I went to his house just for a meal, Jack would say something mean. He opposed me everywhere. Later, before my father passed away, he entrusted me to their family. Uncle Chen and Aunt Chen also intended to make the two of us. After comprehensive consideration, Jack had a happy family of origin. He had a decent profession and a good income. Most importantly, he was handsome. He was better than me in every aspect. Except for being my former archenemy. I was considered to have married above myself in other aspects. Over time, Jack and I got together. We got married as a matter of course. Although our relationship was okay after marriage. Looking back, Jack was the person I hated the most in my entire youth. Traveling through time is really a tricky thing. Why did I have to go back to this time? I rubbed my head in embarrassment. Needless to say, Jack must hate me now. The atmosphere became a bit awkward. I stood barefoot on the ground, hugged my arms. My brain was still in a state of confusion. A school uniform suddenly fell on me. It was Jack's. Jack took off his school uniform and covered me with it. His movements seemed as if he was afraid of touching me. I couldn't help but feel disgusted and pulled the zipper up to the highest position. "Where have you been skipping class these days?" Well, Jack was a bit strict. I looked down at the school uniform on me. It still carried Jack's body temperature. The sleeves were long and swayed like noodles. The image of Jack last night flashed through my mind. I subconsciously answered truthfully. "At my husband's place." Jack snorted at this. "Husband? Who is it this time? Lucas from class 1? Logan from class 5? One is only 1.77 meters tall. He looks rather small-framed. He can even spell his English name wrong. His IQ is not as high as my parrot Lulu. Sophia, can't you focus on your studies?" If I were 18 years old and heard Jack say this, I would definitely get angry again. I would think he was deliberately targeting me and didn't want to see me. But now I suddenly realized a problem. Could Jack have started liking me from this time? Could those little tricks in the past just be his means of getting my attention? "Are you jealous?" I tilted my head and suddenly asked. Jack smiled. "Sophia, don't be so narcissistic. I'm very picky. I don't like someone like you. You fall in love with someone just because of a little affection. And you casually call someone husband." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Although I think I'm really quite good. But hearing these words from Jack's mouth still made me feel a bit funny. If Jack knew that he would marry me in the future, would he be so angry that he'd jump? Dong dong dong. Someone knocked on the door. "Jack, it's the teacher. Are you at home?" It sounded like the head teacher's voice. Jack looked at my disheveled state. He made up his mind and said, "You go to the bedroom first and wait. Don't come out and don't make a sound." His being so cautious instead made me want to play a prank. "If you want me not to come out, you have to agree to one condition." "What do you want?" Jack frowned vigilantly. "Kiss me and I won't come out." I smiled and pointed to my mouth. Jack was known as a good student. Everyone at school knew that he was a well-behaved student. He also cared a lot about what the teacher thought of him. I was sure he wouldn't dare to do this. So I deliberately said such harsh words, eager to see his joke. I happily closed my eyes, thinking that Jack would definitely have no way to deal with me, and he would finally have to compromise. But the imagined scene didn't happen. When I opened my eyes, Jack was calmly picking up the empty school uniform beside me. He pulled the sleeves to my chest and tied a knot tightly. He tied the two sleeves together. I watched him do all this, dumbfounded. But that wasn't all. The next second, Jack opened the wardrobe door. He picked me up horizontally and stuffed me into it. Jack pinched my nose and threatened, "I don't know what you're up to, but I'll never let you have your way. If you dare to come out, I'll tell the head teacher on the spot about your puppy love." He took a few steps forward, stood there, and then added another sentence, as if very disgusted. "You still want me to kiss you? You deserve to be locked in the closet like this." I fell into darkness. Fortunately, Jack hadn't completely lost his humanity. He left a small gap for me to breathe. I heard the movement outside. He was having a vague conversation with the head teacher. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. The 18-year-old Jack was still as annoying as ever. And he was so unreasonable. Who was it that hugged and kissed me last night? And made me so tired that I fell asleep. When I woke up again, the conversation outside had stopped. I tentatively called out, "Jack." No one responded for a long time. I kicked open the wardrobe door and walked out. This time, the surrounding scene actually changed back. I was back in my familiar bedroom. Jack opened the door, and his handsome face came into view. "Honey, did you have a nightmare?" I strode up to him and slapped him hard. My hand hurt badly. This wasn't a dream. I mumbled to myself. Jack covered the place where I hit him. There was still a hint of confusion on his handsome face. "Did I hurt you last night?" "I was drunk last night. I'll be more careful next time." The sober Jack wasn't as clingy as when he was drunk, but I could still feel that his tone was a bit gentler. But I didn't have the heart to pay attention to these subtle changes at the moment. I directly started questioning him. "I'm asking you, when did you start liking me?" Jack was a bit stunned. I don't know if he was lost in some memories. He quickly replied, "We're already married. Why did you suddenly think of asking this?" I didn't know why either. Combined with what happened yesterday, and thinking back to the scene of traveling back just now, I always felt that his attitude was a bit strange. He was being evasive. "Tell me now. Every time I ask you this question, you try to muddle through." Jack lowered his head and kissed me. He had just taken a shower. The faint fragrance on his body wafted into my nose, leaving me with no chance to speak. When he let go of me, Jack pressed his forehead against mine and asked, "Were you confused by something?" "I just think that, regardless of our previous relationship, we should all live in the moment. Cherish the happiness in front of us. What would you like for breakfast?" I wasn't willing to give up. I still wanted to get the truth out of him. So I took the opportunity to say, "I had a dream last night. I dreamed that I went back to being 18 years old. And you confessed to me, saying that you liked me. TSK. Did you have a crush on me before?" I closely observed his reaction. But Jack didn't show any clues. He put on an apron and said slowly, "Haven't you heard? Dreams and reality are opposite. Don't you remember? When I was 18, my girlfriend was the school beauty. Zoe Jack. I've of course heard of that name. At that time, our classmates often discussed privately who was really the school beauty. Everyone was always torn between me and Seo Yun Sung. I thought Seo Yun Sung wasn't as good looking as me. She just had a slightly better academic performance. But she was scheming, and no one liked her. I was always used as a comparison. During adolescence, everyone wanted to be the most unique one. It would be fine if Jack didn't mention this. But when he did, it made me angry. Even so, I refused to admit defeat. I retorted stubbornly, "What a coincidence. When I was 18, the person I hated the most was you." After I finished speaking, I slammed the door shut, hid under the covers and curled up into a small ball, depressed by myself. "Sophia, you woke up after sleeping in the closet. Are you a pig?" That taunting voice clearly reached my ears. I woke up in an embrace with a familiar smell. What caught my eye was the blue school uniform. I was 18 again. The 18-year-old Jack took me out of the closet, untied the sleeves of the school uniform on me, and put me on the bed. His actions were not gentle at all. I managed to coax the homeroom teacher away last time. "Don't expect me to lie for you again in the future. And look at you. Look at your neck. It's all marked up like this. You're so young and doing such absurd things. He must just be looking for excitement. He's not sincere at all. Such an irresponsible person. Are you sure you still want to continue dating him?" Jack raised his face and started lecturing me. He picked up his school bag, ready to go on duty, muttering, "I'm going on duty with Zoe." I couldn't help but think of the school beauty girlfriend he mentioned just now. I got anxious and shouted, "You're not allowed to go. You're swaying your hips so much." As soon as I said that, I thought about how he was still flirting with Zoe now. I didn't want Jack to get too close to Zoe. In case they really got together, I'd be the laughingstock. "I'm not jealous. Take me with you. I'm going on duty too," I threatened angrily. Jack stood there in surprise. "Sophia, you haven't eaten sushi for 3 years. What's wrong with you today?" In the end, Jack still compromised. He agreed to take me to school with him. I put on my long-lost school uniform and went to school in high spirits. It had been a long time since I last saw her. Zoe was still as I remembered her, pure and delicate, exuding the beautiful charm of a dancer all over. Jack kept his distance from her. When Zoe saw Jack, She waved excitedly. When she saw me, the smile on her face faded a bit. Sophia is here too. She called Jack affectionately but addressed me by my first name. I didn't give her a good look. But Zoe still smiled and said, I remember that only Jack and I are on duty today. Then you remembered wrong. I picked up the broom next to me. Pretended not to hear her. Jack frowned and took the thing from my hand, saying in a disgusted tone, Stay away. You can't work. Don't make a mess here. This sentence had a bit of a dismissive meaning. Obviously, he thought I was in the way. Zoe smiled even more happily. Then the two of them walked side by side to the corner. They started sweeping the floor, chatting and laughing while working. I was furious. After all, no one wants to see their husband chatting and laughing with another woman. Just then, I suddenly realized. I had never paid attention to Jack's love history when he was 18. On the other side, Zoe picked up a fallen leaf from the ground. She opened her palms in surprise and joy, carefully showing her discovery to Jack. That spineless Jack actually took it. I watched them and unconsciously hugged my arms. A sense of crisis suddenly surged in my heart. According to this plot, I traveled back to when I was 18 at the age of 25. But I'm watching my future husband start a passionate campus relationship with another woman. Will their relationship change the future outcome? It should be me who cheats on him. No, he's the one cheating on me. I will never allow my archenemy, oh no, my husband, to be with someone else. I must break them up. After making up my mind, I suddenly felt relieved. I deliberately walked up to them, to break the ambiguous atmosphere at the moment. Sophia, do you like botany too? Zoe asked, coughing lightly. This topic was rather subtle. I knew that Jack liked small animals and plants. It seemed that she had done her homework. I shook my head. She couldn't help but curl the corner of her mouth. You don't come to class very often. Presumably, you have a very exciting school life usually. Unlike us nerds. What's wrong with me? Excuse me, aren't you a dancer? Why are you pretending to be a nerd again? That's why I hate Seo Yun Sung. She never says things directly. She always secretly tries to put others down. What do you mean? She frowned and asked me. It doesn't mean much. Zoe widened her innocent eyes. Did you misunderstand me? As she spoke, she subconsciously took a step closer to Jack. From my perspective, it was as if Jack was half protecting her. The atmosphere at this time became a bit tense. Sophia, don't be angry. Zoe blinked her eyes, looking pitiful. What about you and Lucas on the rooftop? I heard from other students. Her voice gradually faded away. The unfinished words left people with endless speculation. Even though she was pretending to be pitiful, I was almost driven crazy. Zoe's small face was full of innocence, but her eyes were fixed on my neck. Jack stood beside her, and the emotions in his eyes gradually cooled down. I didn't understand his emotions at the moment, but the fact that he was standing with Zoe and not protecting me really made me angry. So angry that I wanted to travel back immediately and divorce him. At the age of 18, just as Jack had a rumored school beauty girlfriend named Zoe, I also had a well-known boyfriend named Lucas at school. There had always been some bad rumors in school. Before, when I heard those outrageous rumors, I felt confused, but for some mysterious reason I never explained. To the outside world, I always pretended that Lucas was my boyfriend. I never denied it. Later he went abroad to study, and even sent me a wedding gift. At that time, Jack was quite bothered by that gift. I didn't have a good impression of Lucas. I was even a bit hostile. Now that I've traveled back to being 18, I thought I would be as calm as before. But Zoe's provocation in person still made me angry. She was stupid and mean. Her little schemes were written all over her face. I hated Jack even more. Tears welled up in my eyes, and my vision gradually became blurred. Sophia, I only said a few words. Why are you still crying? It's all my fault for making Sophia cry, Zoe said hypocritically, as if she was going to wipe my tears. I stepped back in disgust. Just as I was about to retort, another deep and pleasant voice came. Of course it's your fault. What happened between Sophia and Lucas on the rooftop? Did you see it with your own eyes? I held back my tears and looked at Jack in surprise. His beautiful eyebrows were slightly furrowed. Or did someone else see it? Last time, when your stepfather picked you up in a luxury car, there were rumors like this in school. You were a witness. Why can't you empathize? Zoe's face instantly turned ugly. Jack, I didn't. I really didn't mean that. Let me explain. Even if she squeezed out a few tears, Jack didn't have the patience to listen anymore. Jack stuffed a tissue into my hand and looked at me with disgust. Why are you still the same as when you were a kid? You always get a runny nose when you cry. It's so dirty. Wipe it quickly. I'm about to throw up. Although he had just stood up for me, the normal Jack was still as mean-mouthed as ever. Is this the tacit understanding between bitter enemies? Only allowing oneself to bully the other. But if the other is bullied by someone else, it's not okay. Maybe that's what Jack thought. On the way back, I recalled Zoe's frustrated expression. I guessed that there was probably no chance for her and Jack. Thinking about it, I couldn't help but laugh. But Jack walked quickly in front. No matter how much I called him, he didn't speak. This was a sign that Jack was angry. I tried to grab the corner of his shirt. It took me a long time to barely stop his steps. Why are you walking so fast? Wait for me. He had no expression on his face. He pulled the corner of my clothes out of my hand. Are you angry? Jack lowered his head. The whole person was shrouded in a low-pressure aura. But he still refused to speak. The 18-year-old Jack was really hard to deal with. Forget it. For the sake of his performance today, I'll reluctantly coax him. Thank you for standing up for me today. I softened my voice and looked up at him. I thought Jack would calm down after hearing my thanks. But he coldly shifted his gaze away. It's my duty to protect my classmates. I'm the monitor. I don't allow rumors to spread among classmates. I would do the same for other students. Then I still thank you. I was a bit confused. What else are you unhappy about? Jack pursed his lips tightly. He looked like he didn't want to talk. I got a little anxious. Honey, I'm in a hurry. These words blurted out before I could think. I quickly swallowed the rest of the words back into my stomach. But it was too late. That clear honey made Jack frown even more. He looked even angrier. The dissatisfaction in his eyes was almost overflowing. His voice became colder. Sophia, I know you like Lucas. I also respect your choice. I don't care who you like. But you've teased me like this several times. Have you considered my feelings? Do you think I'm some kind of scumbag who can be easily toyed with? Watching you with others. Jack suddenly stopped talking. He took a deep breath. I'm the monitor. You shouldn't be in a relationship in front of me. He clenched his school bag strap tightly, and his knuckles turned white. The situation suddenly changed. So, what happened between you and Lucas is true. Hearing this, I kind of understood. Jack thought that his dignity as a monitor had been challenged. Okay, I'll definitely pay attention to my behavior in the future. After thinking about it, I added another sentence. At least I won't make things difficult for you at school. Seeing that I didn't deny it, Jack's expression gradually dimmed. I thought I had answered perfectly. But Jack's lips were pursed tighter and tighter. He looked very dissatisfied. What does that mean? I've said so much. You're so reluctant to break up with him, aren't you? How many good endings do you think campus love can have? You can't get married. Of course I won't marry Lucas. Because you're my husband. But I couldn't directly tell the truth about Lucas. I could only act stupid. Don't worry about him. You know how fast I change boyfriends. I don't have any real feelings for them. I'm just having fun with Lucas. Hey, Jack. Why are you leaving again? Wait for me. Why are you taking such big steps? Sophia, don't follow me. There's no food for you at my house tonight. When I woke up again, I was back at home at the age of 25. Jack had cooked a sumptuous breakfast himself. He had always been good at cooking. The Jack in front of me had a pair of rimless glasses on his tall nose. He rolled up his shirt sleeves. The youthful look of when he was 18 had long disappeared from between his eyebrows and eyes. Even if he wasn't cooking, he still looked very domestic. But thinking of the stubborn Jack just now, they seemed like two different people. The 18-year-old Jack was angry with me and didn't let me go to his house for dinner. But he could never have imagined that. The 25-year-old him was busy wearing an apron at the moment, eagerly preparing every breakfast for me. I kept thinking about what had just happened. I always felt that many details didn't match my memories. Didn't I travel back to the age of 18? Could it be the 18-year-old in a parallel time space? I was lost in thought when Jack interrupted me. Look at you in a daze. What are you thinking about on our wedding anniversary? Lucas sent a handmade rhinestone-decorated dress as a wedding gift. Do you remember? I pretended to be casual. In fact, I was secretly observing his reaction. Jack lifted his eyelids. He acted very cold. It seems there was such a thing. I haven't been able to find that dress recently. Can you help me find it? He withdrew his hand, with a faint smile on the corner of his mouth that didn't reach his eyes. That dress is too long. It's inconvenient to walk in. It doesn't suit your figure. I suggest you change it. I became more and more certain that the stubborn 18-year-old him definitely didn't not care about my relationship with Lucas. This was definitely not just the concern of a monitor for his classmates. What if I have to wear that dress? I asked stubbornly on purpose. Jack sat next to me, with a gentle smile on his face. But it made people feel inexplicably cold. He pushed his glasses, slowly revealing the whereabouts of the dress. Then I can only tell you the truth. When I was helping you organize old things, I threw away everything related to Lucas. Not a single thing was left. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to help secretly missing that ex-boyfriend. Jealousy was clearly showing in his eyes. Jack put the peeled egg into my bowl. I know I was like a homewrecker back then, stealing Lucas's partner. But I don't think there's anything shameful about it. If your relationship was really unbreakable, would there be a chance for me to step in? With my excellent conditions, you should have chosen me. Don't say I'm the other woman. Even the 7th or 8th mistress would have to make way for me. So, don't feel guilty towards Lucas. Love me well. Just hold on to me. It's time to eat the egg, baby wife. He deliberately emphasized the last 4 words, as if emphasizing his identity. Before going to bed at night, I finally confirmed that Jack liked me. But for some reason, he always dared not admit it. It turned out that Jack cared so much about Lucas. He even thought I really liked him. And he thought he had destroyed my relationship with Lucas. But Jack didn't know that. Lucas and I were not what he thought at all. It wasn't like the rumors in school. What happened on the rooftop, I had never told anyone. Because that was Lucas's secret. It was also a secret I promised to keep for him forever. When I woke up again, I was in the school classroom. I think I fell asleep on the desk this time. My desk mate patted his chest, looking relieved. Sophia, you scared me to death. I called you several times just now, but you didn't wake up. I thought something had happened to you. He pointed outside the classroom. Lucas is here. He said he's waiting for you in the old place. When I heard that, I quickly ran out of the classroom. I even accidentally knocked over the milk on Jack's desk. I didn't pay attention to that at the time. But what I didn't know was that, after I left the classroom, Jack's handsome face gradually became angry. He looked at the strawberry milk that had been knocked to the ground. At this moment, the hostility around him was almost reaching its peak. This was the milk he had specially bought for me. Before, when we were in a Cold War, Jack found out that I was used to buying strawberry milk for breakfast myself. He felt sorry for me and wanted to prepare it for me. But now, he felt that he was so cheap. In my eyes, his kindness was like this knocked over strawberry milk. Worthless. While my heart was full of someone else. He also remembered that at noon when we were having a meal, and Lee deliberately sat in his seat, pretending to review her homework. In fact, she wanted to secretly observe me, to see if I would go out to find Lucas. What if they had talked last night and I had changed my mind? But I didn't. He had been struggling. Should he continue watching silently like this? Or should he confess directly to me, and tell me all his feelings? But he was also afraid. Afraid that like my previous ex-boyfriends, I would abandon him once the novelty wore off. If that was the end, it would be better to continue being so-called bitter enemies. Just keep being entangled like this. At least this kind of relationship was special in my heart. Maybe it could last longer. This was Jack's true thought. Who would really want to quarrel and oppose me? Every time he saw me in a relationship with someone else, and saw the smile on my face, Jack was almost driven crazy by jealousy. He wanted to kiss me, hug me, buy me my favorite strawberry milk every day, take me home to eat the food cooked by his mother, and then listen to me call him husband in that sweet voice. Thinking of the first time he saw me wearing pajamas, lazily calling him husband, the conspicuous hickey on my snow-white skin, the pajamas with lace trim. It was just like the scene he had dreamed of. Jack almost couldn't help revealing his feelings. He could only quickly look away, telling himself not to scare me. Forget it, Jack made up his mind. He suddenly stood up, pulled the chair away, strided out of the classroom, to look for my figure. What bitter enemies. They can all go to hell. So what if I've had a lot of boyfriends? In his heart, I was very cute. As long as someone knew me a little bit, it was impossible not to like me. At this moment Jack had a strange thought about those rivals in love. Since he couldn't stop me from liking others, then he would go and steal someone else's partner. Do everything possible to attract me. Because the last person by my side could only be him. Sophia, over here. Lucas waved at me desperately. He still had the breakfast he brought for me in his hand. Looking closely, there was also my favorite strawberry milk. I ran over and patted him on the shoulder. You're too polite. Hey, Lucas, I pretended to be affectionate and hugged his arm, secretly observing if any classmates were looking over. When we walked to a corner where there was no one, I let go and took the breakfast. Thank you for your help that day, Lucas said to me. From what he said I deduced that it should be after that incident now. I quickly waved my hand and smiled a little embarrassedly. It's okay. Anyway, everyone knows I'm a flirt. I often change boyfriends. You don't have to spend so much money in the future. You even bought me strawberry milk. As I was speaking, I suddenly paused. I remembered that Jack used to often bring these for me. I seemed not used to accepting kindness from others. But I always took Jack's efforts for granted. After all, we were enemies. But he had always been so good to me. Humph. Lucas's voice suddenly became a bit choked. Sophia, this is just a little something from me. Please take it. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known what to do that day. Maybe I would have been humiliated and become an outcast in everyone's eyes. Thank you. You were so brave to protect me. One ordinary afternoon in the senior year of high school, I was about to change the cleaning tools. Just as I walked to the rooftop, I happened to bump into Lucas being surrounded by several senior students. At first, I thought they were just chatting, until I heard that sentence. You think you transferred here, and no one knows you're gay? Lucas was over 1.7 meters tall, but compared to their figures, he looked petite. He stood silently in the corner. The buttons of Lucas's shirt and school uniform had been torn open halfway. I didn't have to think to know that it must be the work of those tall senior students. We've heard everything. How do you want to shut us up? With money or what? And then there was more and more lewd laughter. Someone joked. Show us your stuff. Are you different from us normal people? Lucas and I were members of the student union. In my memory, he had always been a particularly gentle boy. He was popular in the class. I immediately stood up to stop them. But I was ridiculed even more violently. Isn't this Sophia from the sophomore year of high school? Why are you speaking for him? Do you like him? In that situation, my mind was a bit confused, because I didn't know if Lucas liked boys. He was silent and a little cowardly, but he was so dazzling in my heart. I decided to protect him. So I subconsciously replied, yes, Lucas is my boyfriend. I knew very well at that time that, rather than blaming them, a better way was to help Lucas cover up. Although it was clumsy, it must work. The senior students were a little shocked. Damn it, did we get the wrong person? I was very nervous. Under their suspicious gazes, I tiptoed and quickly kissed Lucas on the cheek, as if to prove to them that what I said was true. Sure enough, there was a rumor in the school that I was in love with Lucas, just as I expected. But no one talked about Lucas's sexual orientation anymore. This was exactly what I wanted. So I didn't deny it. But soon, The exaggerated version of me kissing Lucas on the rooftop also spread rapidly in the school. And it got more and more outrageous, with various versions. I did not think about explaining. Lucas also said, we didn't do anything outrageous on the rooftop. But our voices were drowned out. I could only choose to ignore these rumors and continue with my life. Because I knew that once someone decides that you've done something, you'll fall into the trap of self-justification. It will only make you feel worse. This unwarranted scandal was far more meaningful than maintaining a sensitive ego. Later, as the college entrance examination approached, this matter gradually faded from everyone's memory. After graduation, Lucas, who went abroad, told me that he really liked boys. And he also found his own happiness. During adolescence, he cared a lot about other people's opinions. He fell into a long period of confusion about his sexual orientation, wondering if it was normal. It was me who stepped forward and gave him the courage to face and confront himself. Perhaps this is just some different experiences on the road to growth. This is the secret of what happened that year. I was walking back with the breakfast, in a good mood and humming a song. Suddenly, I bumped into someone's arms at the stairway. The things in the bag in my hand spilled all over the floor. The milk rolled several times with a gurgling sound, and finally stopped beside a pair of familiar shoes. Jack rubbed my head that was hurt from the collision. He soon noticed the strawberry milk on the ground. Did Lucas buy it for you? Jack took a deep breath and suddenly blurted out an inappropriate sentence. You used to only drink the strawberry milk I bought. I casually responded and was about to bend down to pick it up. Jack beside me said in a slightly anxious tone, "Can you stop drinking the things Lucas bought?" I slightly narrowed my eyes and sized up Jack. I thought it was funny in my heart, looking at this stubborn and proud teenager. I felt that he seemed a bit different from before. Jack's beautiful eyebrows were tightly furrowed. The him who used to oppose me everywhere seemed to have disappeared. Jack was silent for a while. His ears were so red that they were hot, which was more effective than thousands of words of confession. Because I like you. I've always been afraid to speak my mind first. I'm afraid of being looked down upon by you. Afraid that you'll abandon me soon, just like you did with those ex-boyfriends. I usually mock you for having bad taste. In fact, I'm just angry at myself. Why I just can't catch your eye. I like quarreling with you. Also because I hope to be special in your heart. Even if it means you'll dislike me a little more. Jack lowered his head and laughed at himself. You must think I'm very childish, right? But these are all my true feelings. I don't want to hide them anymore. If you really like Lucas, it doesn't matter. Do you want to try and see what it's like to have two boyfriends at the same time? What kind of relationship? I'll accept any kind of relationship. I widened my eyes in surprise. What kind of strange idea is this? Is Jack crazy? He was the school hunk at the age of 18. How could he have such a twisted thought? Stop. This relationship is not right. I said, a little out of control. Jack is a head taller than me. He moved closer to me, trapping me tightly between the stairs and the handrail. Jack lowered his head. The sunlight shone into his eyes, making them sparkle. As long as I can be with you, any relationship is okay. Sophia, don't you want to try being with me? How do you know I'm not good? His expression seemed to say, I'm going to be the other woman today. I'm sure. Although the time and space have changed, but people's personalities don't seem to have changed much. The 25-year-old Jack firmly believed that he had stolen Lucas's partner for love back then. The 18-year-old him seemed to be taking the same detour, even willing to put aside his pride. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Jack, stop frowning. If you frown any more, people will laugh at you. Promise me, stop acting cool here. In fact, you're so nervous that you're almost about to throw up. It turns out that the 18-year-old Jack is so cute when it comes to feelings. So cute that I couldn't help but want to kiss him. I no longer hesitated. I reached out and pulled down Jack's collar. Before he could react, I kissed his lips. Jack's face turned so red that it seemed like it was about to bleed. Fine, then you can be the other woman first and give it a try. Undergo the organization's assessment. I deliberately teased him, without explaining my relationship with Lucas. Nor did I say why. Because I knew even in a different time and space. The Jack here is earnest and passionate. I'm sure I'll like him too. We still have a long time. We can get along slowly and clear up all the misunderstandings. Maybe I'll fall in love with this Jack even earlier than I did with the current one, and then never separate again. My world started spinning. The scene in front of me quickly collapsed. I returned to my own world. I propped my arms on the sofa. Only then did I realize. I didn't know when, but Jack had covered me with a thin blanket. He always thought I liked someone else, afraid of being abandoned by me. So he tried to hide his feelings, and was also afraid of being discovered by me. But he didn't know that love is like a cough. It can't be hidden at all. Hearing the movement on my side, Jack looked up from the desk and looked at me tenderly. "You're awake. Why are you so sleepy today? You've fallen asleep several times. What did you dream about this time?" It turned out that after several shuttles back and forth in the parallel time-space, only half a day had passed in reality. I didn't dream this time. I remember that Lucas sent me an email a few days ago. The smile on Jack's face froze instantly. "It's me who wants to tell you. He said he met a boy he liked abroad and is going to get married." "What?" Jack was very surprised. After all, it's been a long time since that incident. Lucas can now face his sexual orientation calmly, and there's nothing I can't tell Jack about it. Lucas was never my boyfriend. I kissed his cheek at that time just to stop those senior students from bullying him. Jack finally understood. For so many years, there had been a misunderstanding in his heart. I felt that there was still one thing I had to make clear to him. So I got up and slowly walked to the desk, sat in Jack's arms, hooked my arm around his neck, looked him straight in the eyes, and said softly, "I've never felt safe since I was a child. That's why I had so many boyfriends. I wanted a lot of love, thinking that in this way, they wouldn't leave me like my parents did. But later I found out that this wasn't the love I really wanted. The lover I want will do his best to hold on to me, not wanting to miss me, and I also want to try my best to respond to him." Jack stared at me, his eyes showing some emotion. I believe he must have understood what I wanted to say. "Jack, I'm extremely happy now." I looked up, kissed the corner of his mouth, then leaned my head against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. "Thank you. Since I married you, I've really felt very safe and happy. I was so stupid before. I always opposed my wife. Otherwise, I would have married her long ago." I imitated what he said when he was drunk before. Because of Jack, I completely said goodbye to the former life that was cold and without a trace of warmth. With him, there will always be a light shining for me. "Jack, I love you, only you." Jack, who was charmed by my loving words, hugged me tighter with his arms. His broad palms supported my lower back, and he gently placed me on the edge of the desk. Then, a passionate kiss landed. He moved closer slowly, his warm breath trembling slightly by my ear, and his voice was low and gentle. "In fact, I've been attracted to you for a long time. I've just been waiting for you." I knew it. Because the 18-year-old Jack had already quietly told me this secret.